Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to many of us. Welcome to CEO Talk, a series conducted by CXO TV, where a CEO narrates a story and share their learning, the success of building a great brand. So today, our guest is Anand Ramakrishnan, MD, EQ India. So EQ India is a offshore arm of EQ Group. EQ or Infinity Group is a technology-led service and a payment specialist based out of UK. Welcome, Anand.
Thank you so much, Anuj. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure is ours. So, Anand, let me know a little bit about your journey, and as a managing director of EQ India, what do you see as the most significant challenge you face, facing the Indian market today, and how do you plan to tackle them?
Sure, Anuj. So I'll give a quick introduction of what the EQ Group does, and then what EQ India does, and then kind of weave in the challenges with that. EQ Group is the largest shareholder management share registry in the UK and the second largest in the US. So we're pretty big in both of those countries, and we have around 70 million shareholder records. We have 70% of the London Stock Exchange customers with us, and around 15% of the NYSE with us. And we do around 90 billion pounds worth of payments every year, which is basically the dividend payments and so on and so forth. So we are entrusted with a huge amount of responsibility and money by our clients, and that's a significant responsibility for us to carry. In addition to that, we also have a services business, which is around pensions, and this tech is also used by by various pension funds in the UK. Given the fact that we are in a very specialized industry, what happens is we don't get any tech out of the box. So we develop the entire technology that we use, that our clients use, our customers use, etc., is completely ours. So we develop them all grounds up. We have people both in India and Poland doing the development. EQ India is basically the offshore arm of EQ Group. We have EQ Group we are roughly around 6,000 people across UK, US, Poland, and India. Poland is a development center mainly for tech. And India alone has roughly around 1,300 to 1,400 people. So we are roughly one fourth of the overall EQ population. Mm-hmm. We do work around the share registry, so we enable our clients. We manage we are the custodian of the record, so any record changes, etc., everything we have to do from here. We also run a customer experience center, which is basically a center where if somebody calls up and asks about their shares or wants to sell them, we help them sell. As I said, we also do our own tech, so we develop our tech out of India. And in addition, we run a lot of internal shared services as well, which is our finance shared services completely from India. So we run the order to cash, record to report, all those cycles. So given this amount of work happening from India, one of the challenges that we always face is talent, right? Because being in a very, very specialized industry, it's near impossible to get people with knowledge of, say, the UK share regulation market, right? Because the regulations are quite different, and there's still a lot of paper-based operations that happens in the UK and US, which doesn't necessarily happen in India. So one is to attract talent with the right domain knowledge. So that's a challenge that we have typically. The second is, I guess we will be speaking about this later on, is about how do we manage the information security, because it's a huge responsibility on us. I'll cover some of that as we go along. The third is in terms of pinning all the business processes across various geographies into a single process, because there are many handoffs and let-offs, right? So the US hands off at a certain point to us, and then we hand it back to them at a certain point, etc. And a lot of this is regulatory driven processes. So from that perspective, at how do we do it, and how do we do it seamlessly so it doesn't affect us? So it requires a lot of thinking, doing, correcting. So it's a huge process that works behind it. The fourth is, again, since we are highly regulated, for example, even during COVID, we were all working from office because we couldn't work from home. It was not possible. The SEC and the FCA in the UK and the US didn't allow it. So, some of those challenges which are regulatory in nature. So while the whole world is working from home, 600, 700 of our colleagues are working from office, which is not which was not the most ideal, but we had to do it. So these are all the things that, from a business standpoint, keeps us busy, Anuj.
Okay, thank you, Anand. So what I understand is like EQ India supports for technology, the core business operations, and the finance function.
Yeah.
So with this, I'll just quickly move down to the next question. So Anand, can you please talk about EQ India footprint and the major achievements over the last 2 years in terms of the growth?
Sure.
And can you also please talk about the current focus and the expansion plan over the next 2-3 years?
Sure. So, as I said, we are around 1/4 of our location. We are around 1,400 colleagues in India. We are spread between Bangalore and Chennai, and one works as the BCP for the other, which is quite useful to us. From growth perspective, we have been growing so far. So we started in 2014, Anuj, and we've been growing at nothing less than 20% year on year. COVID, no COVID, it really didn't matter. We've just kept growing. But having said that, in the last 2 years, what I'm very happy about is not just the number of people added. What we're looking at is to move EQ India from a global, India captive to a global competency center. Okay. So that is what we are driving towards. There's no fun in adding, more people and doing the same thing over and over again, right? So, for example, today we have the global procurement. 80% of global procurement runs out of here. So the whole procurement process for us across, including, supplier vetting and, vendor management, master data management, everything happens out of India. Mm-hmm. Similarly, we run a global program management office from India. We run a global compliance center from India. So the idea is to run more competencies from India rather than just, do more of the same. And I think we've made that shift in the last 2 years, Anuj, which to me is the biggest achievement, more than the number of people. Having said that, you also asked me about the growth plans over the next 2 years. We are looking at growing at around 30 to 40% year on year over the next 2 to 3 years. We want to become roughly around, say, 50% of our global population from India. But having said that, again, if there is automation and things brought in, and hence we don't really need to add people, but we can create, enough automation to run processes out of India without the people. The numbers may not grow to that extent, but the extent of work that we do from India will definitely increase.
Okay. I think 30 to 40% growth and projecting 50% of the EQ global population in India looks to be pretty impressive. So with this, I'll just move on to the next question, which is more about the automation. I think we just talked about it, and I'll now just touch onto it. So EQ India's financial shared service play a crucial role in supporting financial operations for various clients. So how does company ensure accuracy, transparency, and compliance in financial processes? And what technologies or tools are utilized to streamline financial management tasks?
So I think, as we spoke in the beginning, since the amount of money that we carry of, client balances and so on and so forth, it's not just the internal finance. The whole business is completely, dependent on ensuring a high degree of information security and cyber security compliances and so on. So there are a few fundamental principles that we work with. The first principle is, irrespective of location, our risk posture should not change. So if we were a one country, one location operation, say in UK, in London, we had one operation, and that was Equinity. Today, we have, let's say, 50 centers across the world. The risk profile of that one center versus the risk profile of 50 centers should not be different. And we don't want the risk profile to change just because we are in India or just because we are in the US or Poland. So the single fundamental principle that we have is there has to be the uniformity in risk profile, and hence whatever we do across the group. from a security and transparency standpoint. Some of the things are we are anyway governed by UK GDPR and US data privacy laws, so we're completely bound by that. Not a single piece of client data comes into India, so everything is managed from the data lies in UK and US. Only the processing activity happens out of India. We have enough technology around DLP and anti-malware and encryption. Everything is encrypted as well. So, from my own laptop, for example, I will not be able to send a mail to anyone outside unless the person outside is trusted. And even that, we have a data office that keeps monitoring any such mails that go out, and we question somebody who sent it out, and they need to have a logical answer to what they have sent out. How. Our locations are completely secure physically as well. So we don't allow any outsider to come in, and they're all completely sealed. So from that perspective, and as I said, we also have a very strong BCP between Bangalore and Chennai. Okay. So given all this, I think we have a very, very secure operation. And as you rightly said, we need to be very, very conscious about how we do things. So we security is on the top of our mind all the time, and we also carry a lot of there's a lot of phishing attacks and so on and so forth today, that there are people that you keep reading about data loss and someone taking away client data and things like that. So we're very careful about all of these, and we follow a model of which is based on the NIST framework. For cybersecurity, we follow a model of protect, detect, and respond. So that is what we do.
Okay. So you touched on the security, but my question was more around the set of the technology or the platforms you have in terms of just delivering your services.
Okay, so for delivering our services, as I said, we build our own platforms. Okay. So we don't use anything from outside. But our internal ERP is Workday, so we essentially use Workday as a central system for all our HR, finance, and payroll, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, we have, for example, Sirius is our backbone for shareholder management. Zenite, Compendium is our backbone for pension management, and so on and so forth. So we have our own systems that we develop that become the backbone for whatever we do.
Okay. So now, since customer is now at the center of every business, and customer experience has become very critical than ever for any business. How is the customer satisfaction, and what are the strategies which are being employed to ensure efficient and effective handling of customer queries, concerns, and requests?
Yeah. So as you rightly said, the customer is at the heart of our business. So I think from a technology evolution perspective, we are looking at obviously we are doing all the stuff that everybody else is doing or has done, which includes mobile mobile based transactions and so on and so forth. So we are also focusing a lot on self-service kind of a model, where customers can do more of what they want at their time, and so on. To how we want to handle customers is, it also comes down to our values. So we've defined 4 values for all our colleagues, and these are values that we follow even otherwise, irrespective of whether we are in EQ or not. So it's collaborate, it's being trusted, it is to improve whatever we do, and finally it is to be commercial, because at the end of the day we are a commercial.
Absolutely.
So focuses on trust, because we are a shareholder management company, so we don't do anything that would betray a trust of a customer in us. So any of our actions, whether it be tech or physical actions, be it from the call center, wherever, it is always about trust. So we never so when we look at a customer, the first thing that the customer has to say is, okay, fine, I trust EQ with this information, and hence I'm working with them. So that's the model we look at. From a tech perspective, as I said, most of our technologies are based on today's technology. So we have various interfaces for the customer that makes it far easier for them to work with it. The only challenge you have, particularly in a couple of these locations, is they're based transactions. So, in which case, tech can't be of great help there. But I think that's also changing. So, as long as that change keeps continuing, we are also embarking on our own cloud journey. But again, we can't go completely. We had to be careful about how we go onto the cloud, again, because of security reasons, data privacy reasons, and so on and so forth. So each thing that we look at from a tech perspective has to be evaluated first from a framework and regulatory framework perspective, and then from a data security perspective, and then we take the step forward.
Okay. So the physical records which you just mentioned due to regulatory issues, is it that these are being stored at your warehouse, or how you do it, like how you manage it?
Yeah, so they're all stored in the UK. Nothing comes to India. So they're all, there are secure warehouses, and we have a retention policy as well, which is again regulatory. So we'll have to store all of them. Of course, we also store it in an electronic form. We don't give it only to the paper, but when the paper is sent, policy for the paper as well.
Okay. So, what is the importance for the automation in the share registry industry? And before you dive into the reply for this question, and for the interest of the audience, let me explain what share registry industry is all about. I think share registry industry include the organization that helps the company manage the list of their shareholders, and the responsibility include the maintaining an accurate record of the shareholders' transactions, issuing holding statements, and managing the dividend payments. So with this, I'll give it to you, Anand. Can you just give a reply to this particular thing, where what is the importance of the automation in the share registry?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So one is, as I said, the do-it-yourself model. As much as at the customer's convenience, if they can work on it and conduct the transactions and make sure that their shares are in the right place with the right addresses and so on and so forth, that will help. The other is about authentication, because when somebody says I have shifted addresses, for example, if we can automate that entire cycle of somebody saying I've shifted and here is the here is the proof, and so on and so forth, and the system automatically picks that up and puts it into the into the right bucket and does the change and helps the customer out. Nothing like it. So we are looking at bots and so on that could look at it. The third is internal process. The fewer, more the automation, more intelligent automation, and lesser human intervention, lesser are the errors. So we're looking at a massive, process automation model internally as well. Because we are very process intensive. For example, from India, we do something like 340 plus processes. So if we can automate some of that, it would greatly reduce the error rate, and we have people doing more important stuff than just basic transactions, right? And one other important point from an automation perspective is also our links to banks for payments and so on and so forth. So those are again, there's a high level of focus on checks and balances first, and then automating the linkages. So these are a few of the areas, but I think mainly in the custodian space, it is about maintaining customer records as much as possible. If we can give that power to the customer and ensure authentication before it happens, I think that will be a good way forward.
So does this platform also has something which is more on the document verification? Like, say, for example, if any customer of yours tends to share any documents which is just all about change of the address or change of the name cases. So is it that you have to do an algorithm-based kind of matching or verification of those informations? Because at India, I think you can do it through Aadhaar, but what about the other location? Is it that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are looking at various models, of authentication. The only issue is that unlike the Aadhaar in India, we don't have a single model for clients across US and UK. So, of course, you have the social security number and so on and so forth. But there are challenges with respect to using all of that from a data privacy perspective as well. So, you're absolutely right. We are working on things like that.
Okay. So now, Anand, I'll just come down to the core question, which is very close to my heart, which is all about the security piece, which you touch upon. But I think I'll just get more, into it. So, can you provide us more detail around how EQ India ensure the security of its client data and transaction? So, I'm repeating the word transaction, which is very important, including any measures you have implemented to combat cybersecurity threats.
Yeah. So, as I said, from a transaction perspective, everything is encrypted, first of all. So, there's nothing that's open text form, etc., that runs in any of our systems. From a overall perspective, as I said, we work on a protect, detect, and respond kind model. So, first is protection. So, anything and everything in our environment is protected. So we have the state-of-the-art malware detection. We have state-of-the-art DLP. We have state-of-the-art endpoint EDR, and so on. So we don't leave anything to chance, so to speak. And of course, as I said, the data lies only in the UK and US, and hence there is no local storage of, even within the UK and US, there is no local storage of data in anybody's laptops or desktops and so forth. So to that extent, as long as we protect the data and the data center, we are good, right? We don't need to bother too much about what happens at the endpoint. But having said that, we have to make sure that people can't mail things out, can't take photocopies. Even our photocopiers are all disabled unless you put in a code. So that is the extent of security that we work with. And as I said, most of us work from office. So to that extent, there's no risk of any data being taken out because people are working from home. From a tech perspective, for example, we don't have anyone working on the final production database with access to the production database sitting in India. So the access to the production database always happens from the UK or the US, for respective countries. So things like that, either role-based or be it system-based or be it job-based, etc. We have made sure that across the company, people cannot access anything that they are not supposed to.
And you abide with GDPR?
Absolutely. So we do more than GDPR as far as possible. So UK and then US's own data privacy laws. And again, US data privacy laws sometimes varies between states, state by state. For the state of California, for example, has some additional requirements to abide by. So we follow all of that across the countries.
So with this, Anand, we come down to the end of this episode. Thanks, Anand, for such an insightful session, and we really had a pleasure interacting with you.
Thank you so much, Anuj, and thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you sometime.
Absolutely.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.